The gun pressed cold against her temple as rain hammered the warehouse roof. Kang Miho's eyes locked with hers across the concrete floor, and for the first time in his ruthless life, fear cracked through his chest like lightning. Not fear of the weapon or the men surrounding them, but terror that he'd lost her before ever admitting the truth burning in his blood since that first impossible night. She carried his child, his future, his redemption, and he'd thrown it all away with 3 poisonous words he could never take back. Now, watching her kneel in danger because of him, something ancient and feral roared awake inside his chest, demanding he protect what was his, even if she'd never forgive him for denying their daughter existed. Welcome to Afrokorean Stories, besties. Please like, share, and subscribe. For years and 7 months earlier, Naomi Brooks pushed through the crowd at Seoul's most exclusive charity gala, her emerald dress clinging to curves that drew every eye in the ballroom. She wasn't supposed to be here. Her press credentials were borrowed, her invitation forged, but the story she was chasing about corruption in Korea's pharmaceutical industry was worth the risk. She'd traveled from Lagos to Seoul 6 months ago, determined to make her mark as an investigative journalist, and tonight's event hosted by Kong Enterprises was her best chance to get close to the sources she needed. She didn't notice the man watching her from across the room, his dark eyes tracking her movement with an intensity that made his security team exchange nervous glances. Kang Miho ruled Seoul's underworld with calculated precision, his legitimate pharmaceutical empire serving as cover for operations that made politicians nervous and rivals dead. At 32, he'd built an empire on fear and strategic violence, his reputation for cold brutality preceding him into every room. He attended charity events for appearances, wrote checks to maintain his respectable facade, and felt nothing but contempt for the wealthy parasites surrounding him. Until her. She moved through the crowd with purpose, her natural hair styled in elegant twists, her brown skin glowing under the chandeliers, completely unaware that every man in the room was staring. But Miho wasn't watching her like the others. Something in his chest shifted when their eyes met accidentally across the champagne fountain, her honey-brown gaze holding his for 3 heartbeats before she looked away. Heat flooded through him, primal and unwanted, his body responding to her presence in ways he'd never experienced. He wanted her. Immediately. Completely. With an intensity that should have alarmed him. Later that night, Naomi slipped away from the main ballroom, following a lead about Kong Enterprises' shipping records. She'd just photographed documents in an unlocked office when footsteps approached. She barely had time to hide the camera in her clutch before the door opened, revealing the man from across the room. Miho closed the door behind him, his presence filling the small space. Breaking and entering, he said in perfect English, his accent making her stomach flip. That's bold for a journalist with fake credentials. Naomi's heart hammered. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't insult my intelligence. He moved closer, his expensive cologne surrounding her. I know everything that happens at my events. The question is what I should do about you. She lifted her chin, refusing to show fear despite the dangerous reputation she'd researched extensively. Are you threatening me? Something flickered in his dark eyes. That depends on what you found. Nothing that concerns you directly. She moved toward the door, but he blocked her path, not touching her but close enough that she felt the heat radiating from his body. Excuse me. Not yet. His voice dropped lower. Who sent you? Which competitor? Which politician? Nobody sent me. I'm investigating pharmaceutical fraud independently. He studied her face, searching for lies. You're either very brave or very stupid, coming here alone. I'm thorough. There's a difference. Thorough. He repeated the word like he was tasting it. Is that what you call industrial espionage? I call it journalism. People are dying because someone's cutting corners on drug safety testing. I intend to find out who. Something shifted in his expression. And you think it's me? I think you have the resources and the connections to know who it really is. She held his gaze. Unless you're involved. The air between them crackled with tension. Miho had killed men for lesser accusations, but instead of rage, he felt intrigued. She was either fearless or foolish, standing in his office making demands while wearing a dress that made his hands itch to touch her curves. "What's your name?" he asked. "Does it matter?" "It matters if I'm going to help you." That surprised her. "Why would you help me?" "Maybe I'm tired of being blamed for crimes I didn't commit." He pulled out his phone. "Or maybe I want to see if you're as good as your research suggests. You've been investigating this story for 6 months, following shipping routes, interviewing factory workers, building a case. You're close but missing the key connection." Naomi's pulse quickened. "What connection?" "Meet me tomorrow. Alone. I'll give you what you need. I don't make deals with men I don't trust." His smile was dangerous. "Then we have something in common. But you came here tonight knowing the risk." "What's one more?" She should have refused. Should have run from the predatory way he looked at her, from the heat pooling in her stomach despite every warning bell screaming in her head. Instead, she heard herself say, "Where?" The following afternoon, Naomi arrived at the address he'd texted, a private restaurant in Gangnam that was closed to the public. Miho waited in a corner booth, documents spread across the table. She'd dressed more casually today, jeans and a sweater that somehow looked more enticing than last night's gown, and he had to force himself to focus on business instead of imagining peeling that sweater off her body. "This is everything," he said, gesturing to the files. "Shipping manifests, financial records, names of everyone involved in the safety testing fraud. But it's not who you think." Naomi examined the documents, her journalistic instincts firing as she recognized patterns. "This implicates government officials. Senators. Even members of the Pharmaceutical Review Board. Now you understand why you couldn't publish this story without protection." He watched her process the information. "They'll come after you the moment this goes public. They'll discredit you, deport you, or worse." "Why are you showing me this?" "Because you were right. People are dying. And because unlike you, I have the power to protect you from the consequences of exposing the truth." She looked up from the documents. "At what cost?" "No cost. Consider it an investment in ethical journalism." His expression softened slightly. "Though I wouldn't object to dinner while you review the evidence." They spent the next 4 hours going through every document, Miho explaining the complex web of corruption while Naomi took detailed notes. He ordered food neither of them touched, too focused on the story unfolding between them. But as the afternoon stretched into evening, the professional atmosphere shifted into something more personal. "Why do you care so much?" she asked eventually. "About the story, about helping me?" "Because my mother died from contaminated medication 3 years ago." His voice went flat. "The same officials you're investigating covered it up, paid off the hospitals, destroyed the evidence. I've been building a case ever since, waiting for the right moment to destroy them." Naomi's expression softened. "I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry. Help me finish what she started." He met her eyes. She was a journalist too. Investigative, passionate, relentless. "You remind me of her." The vulnerability in his admission made her chest ache. This dangerous man who terrified Seoul's elite was just someone grieving his mother, seeking justice through unconventional means. "I'll publish the story," she promised. "But I need time to verify everything, build additional sources, make sure it's bulletproof." "Take all the time you need." "But Naomi?" He used her name for the first time. "Be careful. These people play for keeps." "So do I." His smile was genuine this time. "I'm beginning to see that." Over the next 3 weeks, they met regularly, Miho providing additional evidence while Naomi built her case. But the professional relationship evolved into something neither expected. He'd show up at her small apartment with dinner when she worked late, citing security concerns but really just wanting to see her. She'd text him questions at midnight that could have waited until morning, secretly hoping he'd call instead of texting back. The attraction simmered between them, unspoken but undeniable, until one rainy evening when everything changed. Naomi's apartment building lost power during a storm, plunging her fourth-floor walk-up into darkness. She was cursing at her laptop's dying battery when someone knocked. Miho stood in the hallway, water dripping from his expensive coat, holding a lantern and takeout bags. "How did you know?" she asked, letting him inside. "I always know where you are." He set down the bags. "And I assumed you'd be too stubborn to leave just because the power's out. I'm on a deadline. Which won't matter if you starve in the dark." He pulled out containers of still warm food. "Eat first. Work later." They sat on her worn couch, eating by lantern light while rain hammered the windows. The storm knocked out the city's cell towers, leaving them isolated in the warm bubble of candlelight. Conversation flowed easier without the pretense of business, Naomi sharing stories about growing up in Lagos, her dreams of changing the world through journalism, the loneliness of being so far from home. Miho listened with an intensity that made her feel seen in ways she'd never experienced. "Why Seoul?" he asked eventually. "Why not investigate corruption in Nigeria or somewhere closer to home?" "Because nobody expects an African journalist to care about Korean pharmaceutical fraud. I can move more freely, ask questions without raising suspicion." She smiled sadly. "Plus, I needed distance from family expectations. My parents wanted me married with children by now, not chasing dangerous stories across the world. Their loss is my gain." The quiet words made her heart skip. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm glad you're here." He set down his container, turning to face her fully. "Even though you're investigating my company, threatening my reputation, and making my life complicated." "I'm not investigating you specifically. No, you're investigating corruption I've been tracking for years. You're brave and brilliant and you make me want things I thought I'd buried with my mother." His hand lifted to her face, thumb brushing her cheek. "Tell me I'm not alone in feeling this." Naomi's breath caught. She should pull away, maintain professional distance, remember all the reasons this was dangerous. Instead, she leaned into his touch. "You're not alone." He kissed her then, and the world narrowed to his mouth on hers, his hands pulling her closer, for weeks of tension finally breaking like the storm outside. They moved together with desperate urgency, clothes disappearing between kisses, his whispered praise in Korean making her shiver. He worshipped her curves with reverent touches, murmuring how beautiful she was, how perfect, how completely she'd undone him. When they finally came together on her worn couch, it felt like something cosmic shifting into place, two lonely people finding unexpected home in each other's arms. Later, tangled together in her bed, Miho traced patterns on her skin. "Stay with me tonight," he murmured. "Tomorrow. Every night after." "That's moving fast." "I don't do anything slowly." He kissed her shoulder. "When I know what I want, I take it. I'm not something to be taken. No, you're someone to be cherished. Protected. Kept safe from everyone who'd hurt you for exposing the truth." His arms tightened. "Let me protect you, Naomi. Let me give you everything." She should have recognized the possessiveness in his words, the dangerous edge beneath the tenderness. Instead, she heard only devotion, felt only safety in his embrace, and made the mistake of believing love could be simple. The next morning, reality crashed back. Naomi's editor called with devastating news: someone had leaked her investigation, and now every media outlet in Seoul was covering the pharmaceutical fraud story using her research without credit. Worse, the government officials she'd planned to expose were already spinning the narrative, claiming foreign journalists were spreading lies to damage Korea's reputation. Miho arrived within an hour of her panicked call, his expression murderous. "Who had access to your files?" "Nobody. Just my editor and the newspaper's legal team." "Then one of them sold you out." He pulled out his phone, making rapid calls in Korean. "I'll fix this. I'll make sure you get credit, make sure they can't bury the story." "How?" Despair made her voice break. "I've been working on this for months, and someone just stole it. My visa expires in 6 weeks, I have no money to fight a legal battle, and now I'm the villain in a story I tried to tell with integrity. He cupped her face. You're not the villain. You're the hero who exposed corruption even when it cost you everything. And you're not alone. His kiss was fierce, claiming, I'm going to fix this, and then I'm going to destroy everyone who tried to silence you. But first, you need to trust me completely. Can you do that? She nodded, too overwhelmed to question his methods or motives, just grateful someone believed in her work. Over the next week, Miho worked behind the scenes with ruthless efficiency. Suddenly, major news outlets were covering Naomi's original research with proper attribution. The officials who'd tried to discredit her found themselves facing investigations. Her visa was mysteriously extended. And her editor, who'd clearly sold her out, was fired amid allegations of journalistic misconduct. But Naomi was too distracted by her growing feelings for Miho to question how he'd arranged everything so quickly. He'd moved her into his penthouse for security reasons, surrounding her with luxury she'd never imagined. He bought her everything she glanced at, showed up between his mysterious business meetings with flowers and expensive gifts, and made love to her like she was oxygen and he was drowning. I could get used to this, she admitted one night, curled against his chest in his massive bed overlooking the Han River. Good. Because I'm not letting you go. His hand splayed possessively across her stomach. You're mine now, Naomi. Mine to protect, mine to cherish, mine to keep safe from everyone who'd hurt you. The possessiveness should have alarmed her. Instead, it made her feel treasured, special, like she mattered more than any story or investigation. She was falling for him completely, blinded by luxury and attention and the way he looked at her like she'd hung the moon. A month later, everything changed. Naomi woke feeling nauseous, her body rejecting the expensive breakfast Miho's chef had prepared. She tried to hide it, but he noticed everything, his sharp eyes cataloging her every wince and wave of dizziness. You need a doctor, he said, already pulling out his phone. I'm fine. Probably just food poisoning. You've been nauseous for 3 days. That's not food poisoning. He arranged a private doctor visit that afternoon, his concern palpable as he held her hand in the waiting room. The test results came back quickly. Naomi was pregnant, approximately 6 weeks along. She stared at the ultrasound image in shock, a tiny cluster of cells that would become their daughter, while Miho went completely still beside her. Say something, she whispered. He stood abruptly, his expression unreadable. We need to discuss this privately. Back at his penthouse, the warmth she'd grown accustomed to had vanished, replaced by cold calculation. I'll arrange everything, he said, his voice flat. Private clinic, best doctors, complete discretion. Nobody needs to know. Naomi's blood turned to ice. You want me to terminate? I'm giving you options. Options? Her voice rose. You're telling me to get rid of our baby like it's a business problem to solve. A baby complicates everything. My business, my reputation, your career. It's not the right time. Not the right time? She couldn't believe what she was hearing. You spent the last month telling me I was yours, that you'd protect me, that we had a future. Was that all lies? That was before. He wouldn't meet her eyes. This changes everything. This is your child. Is it? The words came out cold, calculated, designed to wound. How do I know you weren't seeing someone before me? How do I know you're not trying to trap me? The accusation hit like a physical blow. Naomi staggered back, tears streaming down her face. You know exactly how many people I've been with. You know everything about me. How can you say that? Because I can't trust anyone. Not in my world. His expression remained impassive even as her heart shattered in front of him. I'll pay for the procedure and give you a generous settlement to restart your life anywhere you want. But I'm not claiming a child that might not be mine. Might not be, she couldn't even finish the sentence, rage and heartbreak choking her. You're a coward. You're not afraid the baby isn't yours. You're afraid it is, afraid of what it means to actually let someone matter to you. Think whatever helps you sleep at night. He pulled out his checkbook. This should cover everything. I don't want your blood money. She grabbed her bag, stuffing her belongings inside with shaking hands. And I don't want a father for my child who's too much of a coward to step up. So congratulations, mijo. You got what you wanted. I'm leaving, and you can go back to your empty penthouse and your comfortable lies. Naomi. Don't. She held up a hand. Don't pretend you care. Don't pretend the last 2 months meant anything. And don't ever contact me again. She walked out of his life, tears streaming down her face, carrying his child and her shattered heart back to her tiny apartment. 3 days after leaving Miho's penthouse, Naomi sat in her cramped apartment staring at the ultrasound photo, her hand pressed protectively over her still flat stomach. She'd cried until no tears remained, then forced herself to focus on survival. Her savings were nearly depleted, her visa extension wouldn't last forever, and she was carrying a child whose father had rejected them both with calculated cruelty. Her phone buzzed with another call from Miho. She'd blocked his number twice, but he kept finding ways to reach her. She let it go to voicemail, just like the previous 47 calls. Whatever he wanted to say now, it was too late. He'd made his choice when he accused her of trapping him, when he'd offered money to make their baby disappear. The next morning, Naomi woke to pounding on her apartment door. She opened it to find Miho's assistant, a severe woman named Mrs. Park, holding a briefcase. Mr. Kong sent these documents for you to sign, Mrs. Park said without preamble, entering without invitation. Confidentiality agreements, financial settlement, medical expense coverage. I told him I don't want his money. Mr. Kong insists. He's prepared to be very generous if you agree to certain terms. She laid out papers across Naomi's small table. Complete non-disclosure about your relationship, no future claims of paternity, relocation expenses to any country of your choosing. Naomi's hands trembled with rage. He's trying to buy my silence. He's protecting his interests. This is standard practice in his position. His position as a coward who abandons his own child? Naomi shoved the papers back. Tell Mr. Kong I don't need his settlement, his non-disclosure agreement, or anything else from him. I'll raise this baby alone. Mrs. Park's expression softened slightly. Miss Brooks, I've worked for Mr. Kong for 8 years. I've never seen him care about anyone the way he cared about you. Whatever happened between you both, I suspect there's more complexity than you realize. He called me a liar. He said the baby might not be his. That's not complex, that's cruel. Yes, it was. Mrs. Park didn't dispute it. But Mr. Kong has trust issues that run deeper than most people understand. His world is built on betrayal and manipulation. Everyone wants something from him, everyone lies. I'm not excusing his behavior, but I am suggesting there might be fear beneath the cruelty. Fear doesn't excuse what he said. No, it doesn't. But it might explain it. She gathered the papers. I'll tell him you refused. But Miss Brooks, if you change your mind or need anything, this is my personal number. She left a card on the table. Despite what he said, I believe he would want to know if you or the baby needed help. After Mrs. Park left, Naomi stared at the card for a long moment before tearing it into pieces. 2 weeks later, Naomi's editor called with an unexpected opportunity. An American news network wanted to hire her as a foreign correspondent based in New York, covering international pharmaceutical corruption. The salary was generous, the visa sponsorship immediate, and the timing suspiciously perfect. Did Miho arrange this? She asked bluntly. Her editor hesitated. Does it matter? It's a legitimate offer from a respected network. You'd be foolish to refuse. She was 7 weeks pregnant, running out of money, and desperate for a fresh start away from Seoul's painful memories. She accepted the position and booked a flight to New York for the following week, telling herself she was doing what was best for her baby. But the night before her flight, Miho appeared at her apartment door. He looked terrible, dark circles under his eyes, his usually immaculate appearance disheveled. Don't go, he said without preamble. I don't owe you an explanation or a goodbye. I know. I know I have no right to ask anything from you after what I said. He stepped closer, his expression raw with emotion she'd never seen before. But I'm asking anyway. Please don't leave Seoul. Don't leave me. You made it very clear you don't want me or this baby. I was scared. The admission seemed torn from somewhere deep. I was terrified, and I lashed out with the cruelest words I could find because that's what I do when I'm afraid. I push people away before they can destroy me. I never tried to destroy you. I know. You tried to love me, and that was more terrifying than any enemy I've ever faced. His hands trembled as he reached for her, stopping just short of touching. I've spent the last 3 weeks investigating everything about you again, not because I doubted the baby was mine, but because I was trying to convince myself I had a right to doubt. But all I found was more proof of your integrity, your honesty, your incredible strength. Tears burned in Naomi's eyes. You can't just apologize and expect everything to be fine. I'm not expecting anything. I'm begging. He dropped to his knees in front of her, this powerful man who'd built an empire on fear and violence, kneeling in her shabby apartment with tears streaming down his face. I'm begging you to give me another chance. Let me be the father our daughter deserves. Let me prove I can be the man you believed I was. How do you know it's a daughter? Because I bribed your doctor for copies of all your medical records. He smiled through his tears at her outraged expression. I know it's invasive and controlling and completely inappropriate, but I needed to know everything. I need to know you're both healthy, that you're eating enough, that the pregnancy is progressing normally. I need to know because I'm completely obsessed with both of you and I can't function without knowing you're safe. Despite everything, her heart cracked at his honesty. You hurt me. You said unforgivable things. I know. And I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you if you'll let me. He pressed his forehead against her stomach, his voice breaking. Please, Naomi. Please don't take my daughter away. Don't deprive her of a father because I was too much of a coward to handle the truth. She wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe in the man she'd fallen for, the one who'd shown her vulnerable moments between the ruthless exterior. But trust, once shattered, didn't repair easily. I don't know if I can trust you again. Then let me earn it back. Day by day, moment by moment. I'll prove I'm worthy of you both. He looked up at her, his dark eyes blazing with determination. Cancel the flight to New York. Stay in Seoul. Move back into the penthouse or let me buy you your own place, whichever makes you feel safer. I'll give you space if you need it, but I'm not giving up on us. There is no us anymore. There will always be an us. Because you're carrying my child, and that binds us together forever. His hand hovered over her stomach, seeking permission. Let me be part of this, Naomi. Let me feel her grow, attend your appointments, prepare for her arrival. Let me prove I can be better. Naomi's resolve wavered, her hand covering his, pressing it against where their daughter grew. If I give you this chance, and you hurt us again, there won't be a third opportunity. I won't need one. I swear on my mother's memory, I won't let you down. Against her better judgment, against every warning screaming in her head, Naomi cancelled her flight to New York. But she didn't move back into Miho's penthouse. Instead, she led him by her comfortable apartment in Gangnam with round-the-clock security he insisted on. He visited daily, bringing food and prenatal vitamins, asking permission before touching her growing belly, treating her with careful reverence like she might break or disappear if he moved too quickly. The pregnancy progressed smoothly through the second trimester. Miho attended every doctor's appointment, his hand squeezing hers during the ultrasounds, his face transforming with wonder when they heard their daughter's heartbeat. He bought baby furniture and clothes in every color, converting one of her spare bedrooms into a nursery that rivaled anything from luxury magazines. He brought her midnight cravings without complaint, rubbed her swollen feet after long days, and read parenting books with the same intensity he brought to business negotiations. But Naomi kept emotional distance between them, accepting his help while guarding her heart. They were co-parents, nothing more, no matter how many times she caught him watching her with longing, no matter how her body responded to his presence. 4 months after their reconciliation, danger shattered their careful peace. Naomi was leaving a prenatal yoga class when 3 men grabbed her, shoving her into a black van. She screamed and fought, terror for her baby overwhelming everything else, but they overpowered her easily. A cloth pressed to her face, chemical sweet, and darkness swallowed her whole. She woke in a concrete room, her hands zip-tied, her 6 months pregnant belly cramping with stress. A man in expensive clothes sat across from her, smoking casually. "Miss Brooks," he said in accented English. "Do you know who I am?" Naomi's mind raced through everything Miho had told her about his enemies. "You're Park Jae-sung. You run the rival pharmaceutical company." "Smart girl." "Yes, I'm the man your boyfriend has been systematically destroying for the past year. He's taken my territories, stolen my distributors, and cost me millions." Jae-sung smiled coldly. "But now I have something he values more than money or power. I have his woman and his child. He'll kill you for this." "Probably. But first, he'll pay. And then he'll learn the same lesson I learned, that loving someone in our world is the greatest weakness." The next 8 hours were the longest of Naomi's life. Her captors kept her isolated in the cold room, giving her water but no food, ignoring her pleas about the baby's safety. She felt her daughter moving inside her, small kicks of reassurance, and prayed desperately that Miho would find them before something terrible happened. Meanwhile, Miho's world had exploded into violence the moment he'd received the ransom call. He'd torn through Seoul's underworld with methodical brutality, extracting information from anyone connected to Jae-sung's organization. His own men had never seen him like this, absolutely feral with fear and rage, killing without hesitation anyone who stood between him and Naomi. "Sir, we've located the warehouse," his head of security reported, blood splattered across his suit. "But it's heavily guarded. We'll need time to plan an approach." "We don't have time. She's 6 months pregnant and terrified." Miho loaded weapons with practiced efficiency. "We go in now, and we kill everyone between us and her." The assault on Jae-sung's warehouse was swift and brutal. Miho led from the front, cutting through guards like they were nothing, his entire focus on reaching Naomi. When he finally kicked open the door to her holding room, finding her alive but pale and shaking, something in his chest unlocked. "You came," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Always." He cut her restraints, pulling her into his arms carefully, mindful of her belly. "I'll always come for you. Always protect you. I'm sorry I wasn't there to stop this." Jae-sung appeared in the doorway, gun raised. "How touching. Too bad you're both going to die here." Miho moved faster than Naomi could track, shoving her behind him while simultaneously drawing his own weapon. The standoff lasted 3 seconds before gunfire erupted, deafening in the concrete space. When the smoke cleared, Jae-sung lay dead on the floor, and Miho stood unharmed, his body having shielded Naomi completely. "Are you hurt?" He turned to her frantically, hands roaming over her body checking for injuries. "Did they hurt you? Is the baby?" "We're okay. Scared but okay." She pressed his hand to her belly where their daughter kicked strongly, as if reassuring them both. "She's strong. Like her father." Miho's expression crumbled, and he pulled Naomi into his arms, burying his face in her neck. "I almost lost you both. I can't survive that. You're everything, Naomi. You and our daughter are everything." "I know." She held him tight, feeling his whole body shake with delayed terror. "I know." At the hospital, doctors confirmed both Naomi and the baby were healthy despite the ordeal. But the experience had shattered the last walls Naomi had built around her heart. She'd felt Miho's absolute devotion in the way he'd torn through an army to reach her, in the way he'd shielded her body with his own, in the raw fear on his face when he thought he might lose them. That night, after they'd returned to her apartment with triple the security detail, Naomi found Miho sitting in the nursery, staring at the crib he'd assembled months ago. I should have protected you better, he said without turning around. Should have anticipated Jae-sung would try something. This is my fault. This is the fault of a violent man who wanted revenge. Not yours. She sat beside him, taking his hand. But it showed me something important. What? That you meant every word when you said you'd protect us. That you'd die before letting anything happen to our daughter. She pressed his hand to her belly again. I've been holding back, keeping distance between us because I was afraid you'd hurt me again. But watching you today, seeing your fear when you thought you'd lost us, I realized something. You love us. Completely. Maybe even more than you love yourself. I do. I love you both more than anything in this world. He turned to face her fully. I know I don't deserve another chance after what I said, how I hurt you. But Naomi, I'm asking anyway. Marry me. Not because of the baby, not because of obligation, but because I can't imagine spending another day without you as my wife. Because I want to wake up every morning knowing you're mine, legally and forever. Because I want our daughter to grow up seeing her parents love each other completely. Naomi's heart hammered. You're proposing in a nursery after we were both almost killed? I'm proposing because we were almost killed, and I realized life's too short to wait for the perfect moment. He pulled a ring box from his pocket, the same one he'd apparently been carrying for weeks. Marry me, Naomi Brooks. Let me spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of you. The ring was stunning, a perfect diamond that caught the nursery's soft light. But more stunning was the vulnerability in Miho's expression, the hope and fear warring in his eyes. This powerful man who commanded empires was completely at her mercy, waiting for her answer. Yes, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. Yes, I'll marry you. He slid the ring onto her finger and kissed her with desperate relief, his hands cradling her face like she was infinitely precious. I love you, he murmured against her lips. I love you so much it terrifies me. But I'm done running from it, done pushing you away. You're mine now, completely and forever. Forever, she agreed, kissing him back with all the love she'd been holding inside. They married 2 weeks later in a private ceremony at his penthouse, Naomi 7 months pregnant and radiant in a custom gown that accommodated her belly. Miho cried when she walked down the makeshift aisle, his stoic mask finally crumbling completely. He'd invited no business associates, no politicians, no one from his dangerous world, just a handful of trusted staff and the officiant. This moment was theirs alone, sacred and perfect. I promise to love you, he said during their vows, his voice rough with emotion. To protect you and our daughter with my life. To never again doubt your love or push you away when I'm afraid. To be the man you deserve, even when it's hard, even when my instincts tell me to hide behind walls. You've made me human again, Naomi. You've given me a reason to be better. I promise to trust you, she responded, her own tears flowing freely. To believe in the man I know you are beneath the reputation. To stand beside you through whatever dangers come, because I know you'll always fight to bring us home. I promise to love our daughter with everything I have, and to never let her doubt her father's devotion. Because you're not the man who pushed me away 4 months ago. You're the man who tore down an empire to save us. Their kiss sealed promises that went beyond traditional vows, 2 people who'd found love in impossible circumstances, choosing each other despite every obstacle. 2 months later, on a spring morning that smelled of cherry blossoms, their daughter entered the world with a furious cry that made both parents weep with joy. Miho held his baby girl for the first time, this tiny perfect human he'd helped create, and felt his entire world shift. She had Naomi's nose, his eyes, and a full head of dark hair that stuck up in every direction. She's perfect, he whispered, pressing a kiss to her tiny forehead. Absolutely perfect. What should we name her? Naomi asked, exhausted but glowing with happiness. Minna, he said immediately. It means clever and beautiful. Our clever, beautiful daughter who survived everything to get here. Minna Kong, Naomi tested the name. I love it. They spent the first week in a private recovery suite Miho had arranged, just the 3 of them bonding as a family. He changed diapers with surprising competence for someone who'd never held a baby before, walked the floors with Min-na when she cried at night so Naomi could rest, and documented every moment with photos that filled his phone. "You're a natural father," Naomi observed one night, watching him cradle their sleeping daughter with infinite tenderness. "I'm a terrified father who's reading 7 parenting books simultaneously and calling the pediatrician for every sneeze." But he smiled, the expression transforming his usually stern face. "But I've never been happier. Never felt more complete. You gave me this, Naomi. This family, this love, this perfect little person. I don't know how to thank you." "You already did. You chose us when it would have been easier to walk away. You fought for us when I'd given up hope. You love us completely." She reached for his hand. "That's all the thanks I need." 3 years passed in a blur of toddler chaos and unexpected joy. Min-na grew into a precocious child who wrapped her dangerous father around her tiny finger, making him attend tea parties and wear tiaras without complaint. Miho's business empire continued thriving, but he restructured his operations to minimize danger, unwilling to risk leaving his daughter fatherless. He and Naomi worked together exposing corruption through legal channels now, using his resources and her investigative skills to make real change without the violence that had once defined his world. But they were still building their life on the foundations of his dangerous past, and that past had a way of returning when least expected. It started with anonymous letters delivered to their home, each one containing photos of Min-na at her preschool, at the park, at the private playground Miho had built in their secured compound. Someone was watching their daughter, and the implied threat made Miho's blood run cold. "Who has access to these locations?" he demanded of his security chief, the photos spread across his office desk. "Only trusted personnel, sir. But someone clearly has inside information about Miss Min-na's schedule." Miho's jaw clenched. He'd made enemies over the years, that was inevitable in his line of work. But threatening his daughter crossed a line that would end in bloodshed. "Find them. Use every resource we have. I want to know who's behind this before they get any closer to my family." The investigation led to someone unexpected, a woman named Yuri who'd worked as Min-na's temporary nanny 6 months ago. She'd been carefully vetted, her background checked thoroughly, but deeper digging revealed she was Park Jae-sung's niece, seeking revenge for her uncle's death years earlier. "She's been planning this for 3 years, Miho's security chief reported. Ever since you killed Jae-sung to save your wife. She's connected to a criminal syndicate in Busan, and they're planning to grab Miss Min-na during her school's field trip next week." Miho went absolutely still, that dangerous calm that meant someone was about to die. "Then we're going to be ready for them." The day of the field trip, additional security personnel surrounded Min-na's preschool disguised as parents and teachers. Naomi wanted to keep their daughter home, but Miho convinced her that showing fear would only encourage future attempts. "We end this now," he said. "We show them that threatening our family costs everything." The attack came exactly as intelligence predicted, armed men attempting to grab Min-na from the zoo's crowded playground. But Miho's team was ready, neutralizing the threat before any children were harmed. Yuri herself made the mistake of trying to grab Min-na personally, and Miho was there to stop her. He didn't kill her, not in front of witnesses, not where his daughter might see. But his quiet words as security restrained her promised consequences worse than death. "You threatened my child," he said, his voice deadly calm. "That's not something I forgive or forget. Enjoy prison, because if you ever breathe near my family again, I'll make you beg for the mercy I showed your uncle." That night, after Min-na was safely asleep and Naomi had finally stopped shaking, they stood together on their penthouse balcony overlooking Seoul's glittering lights. "It's never going to be completely safe, is it?" Naomi asked quietly. "There will always be someone seeking revenge, someone seeing our family as a weakness to exploit. No, it won't ever be completely safe. But I promise I'll spend every day protecting you both." Miho wrapped his arms around her from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. "And I promise that anyone who threatens our family will learn the same lesson Yuri learned today, that crossing Kong Miho costs everything. Sometimes I wonder if we should leave." Move somewhere anonymous, give Min-na a normal childhood. Would you be happy never investigating another story? Never fighting corruption? Living a quiet life that doesn't challenge you? He turned her to face him. Because I'd do it. I'd walk away from everything if that's what you wanted. Seoul, my business, all of it. Just say the word. She studied his face, seeing the absolute sincerity there. He would do it, would give up his empire without hesitation if she asked. But she realized she didn't want that either. No, she said slowly. Because running won't keep us safer. Bad people exist everywhere. At least here, you have the resources and connections to protect our family. And here, we can keep fighting to make things better. Then we stay. We fight. And we build the kind of world our daughter deserves to inherit. He kissed her softly. Together. Always together. 1 year later, Naomi stood in the nursery they'd just finished preparing, her hand resting on her pregnant belly. Min-na would be a big sister in 3 months, and she couldn't stop telling everyone about her future baby brother. Miho had been even more protective during this pregnancy, having learned from past mistakes that his family's safety required constant vigilance. But he'd also learned to trust Naomi's strength, to work with her as a true partner rather than someone who needed constant sheltering. They'd built something remarkable together, a family forged in danger but sustained by love, 2 people from completely different worlds who'd chosen each other against impossible odds. Are you happy? Miho asked, appearing behind her to wrap his arms around her growing belly. Deliriously happy. She leaned back against his chest. Sometimes I can't believe this is my life. That the man who once rejected our first daughter now reads her bedtime stories every night and cries during animated movies because he's worried the characters won't find their happy ending. That was one time. And the fish was very sad. She laughed, turning in his arms. You're soft now. Completely ruined by fatherhood. Only for you 3. He pressed a kiss to her forehead. The rest of the world still knows better than to cross me. But yes, for my family, I'm absolutely soft. Completely devoted. Entirely at your mercy. Good. Because I'm not done ruining you yet. She pulled him down for a kiss that still made her heart race after 4 years together. We have a lifetime of happiness ahead of us, Mr. Kong. Better get comfortable with being soft. As long as you're beside me, Mrs. Kong, I'll be whatever you need. And as cherry blossoms drifted past their window, as their daughter played in the next room, as their son grew safely in Naomi's womb, 2 people who'd almost lost everything held each other close and chose love again. Because some bonds were forged in danger but strengthened by devotion, some families were built from broken pieces that fit together perfectly, and some love stories required darkness before earning the light. Theirs was all 3, and it was absolutely perfect. The end. From the moment Kong Miho denied his daughter's existence to the day he'd burned Seoul down to protect his family, for years transformed a ruthless mafia boss into a devoted father and husband. Because sometimes the most dangerous men become the most loving fathers, and sometimes one woman's strength is enough to save even the coldest heart from its own darkness.